Welcome to our Thursday movie night. We love the TV series called The Chosen. If you haven't seen last week's episode, go to thechosen.tv tomorrow and watch it. Or better yet, download the free app and you'll even be able to cast it to your smart TV. You'll be watching this, if you're watching this introduction after Thursday's premiere, you'll need to do this just to watch the episode as well. It's our hope that this little introduction we give you each week will give you just a little bit of a boost so that you'll better enjoy the series. First, a segment we call In the Scriptures. There are two main passages in this episode that will flesh out for us. Luke chapter 2, verses 41 through 50 is the story of a 12-year-old Jesus getting separated from his parents at Passover and how they finally find him in the temple. John chapter 2, verses 1 through 11 will be the main part of the episode. We call this story the wedding at Cana, where Jesus has a special wedding present for the couple. I used to have a line in my wedding ceremonies that comes from the story where I'd say, it was at a wedding that Jesus chose to do his first miracle, turning something ordinary like water into something special like, well, you'll see. This isn't necessarily the chronologically first miracle that Jesus ever performed, but it's the first public miracle. As with the previous episode, some of this episode will introduce things with which we have no record of Jesus or the disciples saying or doing. But the principles that are being laid out are very consistent with the character of Jesus, as well as the cultural background of how people lived in the first century. And as the producers of The Chosen will encourage you, make sure you are reading your Bible, and especially the Gospels, for the best information. Now, for a section we call Terms and Practices. Ima, again, means mother, and Abba means father. Let's talk about Jerusalem in AD 8. This is where the first scene starts. Most scholars agree that the actual birth of Jesus is around 4 BC. In AD 8, Jesus would be 12 years old, has probably already had his bar mitzvah, making him a son of the covenant, an adult Jew, and able to participate in synagogue and temple activities. Cana. Cana is a village in the Galilee region. It is about 3 miles from Nazareth and 17 miles from Capernaum. Now, while Capernaum is about 700 feet below sea level, Cana and Nazareth are both about 1,100 feet above sea level. So the trip from Capernaum to Cana will involve some serious uphill walking. Elijah and Elisha, or they'll say Elisha. Simon will mention how Elijah called his disciple Elisha to follow him. And it's an early example of a teacher calling a disciple. You'll find that story in 1 Kings 19, verses 21 through 21. Chapter 19, verses 19 through 21. And you're going to see throughout the episode and the upcoming episodes how newly called disciples act, how they don't really know what they're doing. They're trying to figure it all out. Let me say a word about prayer. If you don't pay attention, you might miss this. We usually think of prayer from our perspective. We ask God things. But the director gives us a little different perspective on prayer from God's point of view. Note how they take a shot of Mary's face when she's requesting something from Jesus, when she's asking him. And this is how Jesus looks at us when we're praying. You'll see this twice in the episode. Weddings. You're going to get a great picture of what a Jewish wedding might have looked like back in the first century. Singing. There's a song that's going to be sung during one of the dances. The lyrics talk about the voice of the bridegroom and the voice of the bride. And the text comes from Jeremiah 33, verses 10 through 11, which speaks of a time of joy after God once again restores the nation of Judah after their captivity. Dancing, there's a mention of Miriam's dance. When Israel made it through the Red Sea, Moses' sister Miriam led the women in dances. This is found in Exodus 15, verses 20 through 21. The word for dances in Hebrew means to dance in a circle. You'll see a lot of this kind of dancing. There's the master of the banquet. This would be either a head servant or a man hired to run all the events at a Jewish wedding. Huppah. This is a canopy at the center of a Jewish wedding. The frame was often made with wood timbers donated by the groom's family. The couple and the rabbi stand under it during the ceremony, and it represents the new home that the newlyweds are building. Wine. Let's talk about wine. Real wine. You'll hear about the kinds of spices that are in a special wine. And archaeologists tell us that these are actually the things that were used in wine back in this time. And wine is a symbol of joy and blessing. Watch for the different ways that wine shows up in the episode. Now let me give you some extra credit homework. 2 things. We are called to be witnesses for Jesus. See if you can identify some of those who are giving a witness about Jesus. And secondly, pay attention to who Jesus chooses to spend time with at the wedding. Lastly, a section we call characters. There's a few new characters, some old familiar ones as well. There's Joseph and Mary. We get a peek of them when Jesus was just 12 years old and Joseph was still alive. Nicodemus and John the Baptizer. Last week we saw the Pharisee Nicodemus visiting John the Baptist in prison. Nicodemus is trying to figure out how Mary Magdalene was delivered from her demons. And John is Jesus' cousin, and his ministry is all about preparing the nation to meet the Messiah, Jesus. John will quote Isaiah 40, verse 3 as the foundation of his ministry. This is the verse that starts off with the voice of one crying in the wilderness, prepare the way of the Lord. John will also quote Proverbs 30, verse 4, referred to as the oracle or the words of Agur, the son of Jacob. Just watch how that works out. Simon Peter and Eden. Remember that Jesus has just helped Simon with his huge tax debt with a miracle, filling Simon's boat with fish. And Simon has to explain to his wife Eden what has happened and what he wants to do in response. Thomas and Rama, they're not a couple, but they're just business partners. Thomas is often labeled as doubting Thomas. You'll see this personality trait come out a bit as one who questions things. He's serving as the head caterer, the one preparing the food. Rama is a young woman who's a vintner. She's in charge of supplying the wine for the wedding. And then there's Rafi and Dina. These are friends of Mary. They know her from Nazareth, where their kids grew up together. And they are the parents of the groom living in Cana. And then there's the other disciples. We've already met Andrew, Simon's brother. We've also met Big James and John, the 2 sons of Zebedee. We've also met young James, Thaddeus, and Mary Magdalene. We encourage you to find out more about The Chosen. Open up your browser and go to thechosen.tv on the web or download the free app for your mobile device. You'll be able to watch the episodes over and over again from there. We also encourage you to give your financial support to this project. We do. We'd also like to encourage you to think about hosting a watch party each week. Even if you've already seen each episode, we're finding that it's so much more fun and edifying to watch with others. At the end of the episode, be sure to head back to the Calvary Fullerton YouTube channel to watch the live broadcast as we discuss what we will have just watched. We'll start as the credits are rolling. If you have any questions or comments you'd like to share during our post-episode discussion, just text the church office at 714-879-3314. We will do our best to address as many of the comments as we can. And as per our agreement with The Chosen, our YouTube presentation of the actual episode will only be up for the live premiere. After that, if you want to rewatch the episode, you will need to go to the Chosen website, or even better, use their free app. Now hold on tight, because here we go.